How do I look? Got any tissue on the nose? Lip? No? We're good. We're good to go this time. Little update from Lindsey Williams. Now, an email went out from him a few days ago, several days ago, that said, those of you who bought my recent DVD set, I'm adding an additional CD, audio CD, to it with some new information. So I knew naturally he'll be out making his rounds, talking about it, whatever. And a few days ago, he was on Stan Dio, I guess is the guy's name, show. And you know how Lindsey Williams can talk. And I'll give you the 4 or 3 basic things he said. Now, as you all will recall, he had already said that his insider oil guy told him to watch the derivatives market. When you see a crack in the derivatives market, basically the end is near, so to speak. Not that they can't drag this on for months, because they can. But he said to watch it carefully. Then just days ago, last week, whatever, we have JP Morgan losing $2 billion in derivative-related bets that went sour. Spot on, as expected, Lindsey Williams. Boom, there you go. Now, this latest information that he was told by his elitist friend was that in regards to derivatives, that'll happen, which we're seeing. He said this thing with JP Morgan is just the beginning. This is one of those cracks. It's not the whole thing. Get it ready for it. It's just a crack. Again, more cracks will come because all the big banks are involved in these derivatives. JP Morgan has the lion's share of around $70 trillion in derivatives. Wells Fargo, Citi, Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, they're all in there for 40, 50, whatever trillion each. I mean, it's incredible. So he said derivatives, naturally, JP Morgan, he nailed that one. And he said that will lead to dollar or currency wars, not dollar, but currency wars, which will also lead to trade wars. And finally, last but not least, is going to lead to the Federal Reserve, United States of America, raising the interest rates. And he gave an example that said if they raise it 1%, and it was really low. I hope I heard him correctly because I didn't do the math, but I believe he said if they raise the interest rates 1%, the debt that we owe, which we owe interest on that debt, will be somewhere. It'll add an additional $100 and something billion by just upping it 1%. Now, they raised the interest rates in the 1980s, by the way, to 16, 17, 18, 19, somewhere around there. It may have fluctuated a little bit, percent. That's freaking heavy duty. Can you imagine saying, hey, I'm going to go, it's my turn for the American dream. Yeah, American dream, here I come. Hey, I'm going to go get a house and do the American thing. Oh, you are? Yeah. Got to get a loan, don't you? Yeah. But I'm an American. Yeah. How's an 18% home loan sound to you? Yeah. No. Huh? But on hindsight, or the other side of the coin, is that when interest rates go up, again, this will affect everything. And I want to focus on housing because housing has been destroyed for the last several years. And I keep seeing these articles and news and, oh, housing's looking good again. And then the data comes out of new home loans that went out and all that stuff. And it's absolutely dismal. Terrible. So what happens when you have a house? And I want to just use the old standard typical number here. 2003, let's say you buy a house for $100,000. Well, as you know, by 2005 and 6, 2006 was pretty much the end of the road, but let's say 2005 and 6, that house was damn near $200,000. It may have doubled to $200,000 in many places. And now that $100,000 house you originally paid that much for, went to $200,000, is now worth probably 80-something thousand. You're naturally upside down. So you want, hey, good news, market housing, and then the data comes out and slaps the talking heads in the mouth with reality that shut your mouth. Housing's not getting better. One little blip up or two blips up every now and then doesn't count as a recovery, you idiot. It's nothing goes straight down, but the majority of it is down, especially with housing. What do you suppose? Let's just call it $80,000. Your $100,000 went to $200,000. Now it's $80,000. You're upside down. You're still making your mortgage payment, realizing, why am I feeding this turd that is just eating my money? And I can never get out of this house. I've got to stay in this house for another 20-something years as the price is going down. This is ridiculous. What am I doing? That's what you're going to tell yourself. However, the point I'm making right now, dragging this along as Lindsey Williams would, as a matter of fact, I know you appreciate that. What happened in the 1980s, right? History repeats and repeats and repeats. 1980s, we had a little savings and loan scandal / crisis, and there was a banker bailout then too. Too big to fail happened back then. But on an itsy bitsy teeny weeny scale compared to right now, there were no such thing as derivatives back then, by the way. But when they had 18+% rate on your house to get a home loan, you're going to have to realize, well, how could anybody get approved for a house and make the money necessary to pay back 18, 19, 20% on a mortgage, which is huge. The larger the money that you're getting a loan on, the more massive your interest payments are going to be. The interest alone would kill you. It's already terrible now. I mean, most of your mortgage payment right now, the probably 3/4 of it is just interest. And that's today's prices. And including the 4 or 5+% rates that people have gotten recently, 3, 4, and 5. So, having said that, $80,000 house, up, Ben Bernanke, we're raising rates. And then they may raise rates again. And what if we get to these ridiculous rates like we did in the 80s? 6%, 7%, 8%, 9%, 10%, 12%. Do you think an $80,000 house is still going to remain at $80,000? And people who say, okay, you're just qualified for around $80,000 to $90,000. That's what the bank tells you, because everyone's playing it safe now. All the banks are playing it safe. You're approved for up to $90,000, sir. And ma'am, your wife, go find yourself a house. Here's a pre-approval letter. All right. You can't possibly afford an $80,000 or $90,000 house when you got that approval, and let's say the approval was basically based on 3, 4, 5, somewhere in there, 4 or 5%, we'll call it, interest rate. And then all of a sudden, the interest rate goes up to 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That $80,000 house no longer becomes affordable to the people that got pre-approved. Therefore, markets or free markets or open markets kick in automatically. It just happens. And the prices of housing will go down and plummet even more because that equilibrium has to be met. Interest rates, cost of the actual item or the house. Interest rates, and there has to be that little fine medium. And here they are, 3, 4, 5% over here. And currently $80,000, $90,000 house over here that used to be $200,000 not that long ago. And then this thing raises, right? Interest rates raise. Well, the house price isn't going to raise. It's kind of an opposite equilibrium. Now, as this goes up, this must come down to equal out. That side goes up, the other side goes down. So interest rates that go up means automatically the price of the item, and in this case a house, goes down. And here I am with my boss talking about getting some property in Tennessee, still looking at some stuff. We're going to take a flight sometime in the near future. We're not driving this time. We're going to take a flight because we're going a little further north, near Pastor Dowell, I might add. And we're going to take a peek. However, and I don't know that these interest rates are going to rise by the time me and him pull the trigger on a piece of property. I don't think that'll happen, but it could. And that would also drastically affect the property and just land or whatever we're looking at to buy. So you're going to find the same thing happens, whether it's a piece of land that needs financing or a house that needs financing. The only people who are that's not going to affect is someone who's got cash. But how many people do you think are going to go out there and buy up all the land and all the houses and everything else because they've got cash? There's not a lot of people. There's enough, More or not necessarily enough, but there are people out there who have cash. Thousands and thousands, tens of thousands, whatever. They have it and they're sitting on it. But if that's the case, why aren't they buying right now, right? I mean, they could buy right now if they want to. Therefore, there's still this massive amount of property, land only, and then there's massive amounts of houses for sale. So even the land people who sell their houses are selling the land alone, which is fine. We're looking at just land as well. Are going to find, man, I got to lower the price even more. And I even contact some of the ones we're interested in, and do they, just curious, do they offer owner financing? I'll find out. I'll get back to you. Okay. Nope. 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 The last 3, and the only 3 thus far that I've asked about. By the way, do they offer owner financing? All 3 times, including the last one was today, by the way. Got a response back. No, I'm sorry, they don't offer owner financing because they have a loan out on the property. They own on the loan, and what they owe left on it is basically what they're trying to sell it for right now. So there's no way they could do owner financing. Oh, okay, thanks. We'll look for some other property. So the landowners are also upside down, just like the homeowner. And if interest rates rise, you will be even more upside down, because all of a sudden what people get approved for goes down to make the difference up for the upping of the interest rate. Because when you get approved, they're going to say, well, here's what your monthly payment would be for the house. Here's what you bring in as income. This equals what you are able to purchase. Let's call it $80,000, $90,000, $100,000, whatever. Now all of a sudden, well, we got to redo this. Interest rate went up 2%. All of a sudden, you can't afford what you thought you could afford. The prices will go down. So ultimately, the house you were looking at, if you wait a little bit, they're going to have a smack in the face from reality that tells them you got to drop the price even more, because now that interest rates went up, it stops a lot of people from qualifying. You have to bring the price down. How much do I need to bring it down? And they'll figure out the exact amount that they need to bring it down. And then you're going to find a whole slew of other people who are just trying to get out of their house or land or property. They owe basically right where it's at, what they owe on it. They're trying to get for it. It should sell for that. And then they're being told interest rates just went up. You got to lower the price more. And now they will now be underwater, where they were just treading above the water. Okay, let's hurry up and sell this. Let's hurry up and sell this. Things ain't looking too good. Okay, we're as low as we can go. Now you got to go lower when you thought you didn't have to and you couldn't. So there will be people out there that have the land that they own outright, or if they have a loan on it, what they're trying to sell it for, they still have a lot of equity left. Even though the prices got destroyed, they paid off so much of it, they still have some equity left. Those people will be the ones able to go out and negotiate, but they're going to be far and few in between. So the purpose of this video is to let you know there's been an update from Lindsey Williams that there will be currency wars, which you can kind of already see that going on. Euro, USA, all that. You can already see it. Trade wars, you're already hearing about it, about China and India and us trying to get competitive. And that's just what's going on right now isn't anything to what's coming as far as currency wars and trade wars. And then finally, interest rates will go up. It is incredible that we have a system where our own government can't print its own money, bond and interest free. They can't. They have to go to a privately owned central bank. And I'm going to remove the word central bank because that may make you think it's part of the federal government, and it's not. So we're just going to call it a private bank. The government, and this goes across the board, whether it's Canada, the Eurozone, or some other country. They all have a central bank. They all follow the central bank principles, and they all, and they all practice fractional reserve lending. So why can't we, as a country and a world, in all these nations across the world, simply go up to our politicians and say, excuse me, why are we borrowing money from a private bank? that has the power to create its own money. And then the taxpayer has to pay tax for this and tax for that. There's over 100 taxes right now, and I know you've probably seen these videos out there, that did not and never existed 100 years ago. Fishing tax and hunting tax, and I can't even say her name of them all. There's over 100 of them. Not one of them, including income tax, by the way. Income tax, Ronald Reagan had a study done in the 80s. I forget the guy's name that was in charge of his economic team, and basically came to the conclusion of where all of the income tax money goes, in all of it, or it was either all of it or absolutely most of it, a huge portion of it, I can't remember because it's been a long time since I read this, goes straight to paying off the interest on the debt. Why are we printing bonds and giving them to bankers, because that's who ends up holding them ultimately, and then we have to pay interest on the bond for the amount of money we got for that bond? Why are there bonds to begin with? Oh, I know, because the simple definition of bond is bondage. This isn't money being created, this is debt being created. And each piece of debt instrument, known as a dollar, has interest tied to it. Because each dollar has interest attached to it, automatically, as soon as it's created through a loan or created by the Federal Reserve, it has to be paid, it has to have interest paid on it. But the interest that has to be paid on it is never created by the Federal Reserve. So there's this perpetual thing that keeps growing and growing and growing, and it's called debt. By the very design, it can't be paid off, won't be paid off, and blows up at the end of its life cycle. And the power elite are hoping will be too stupid enough and uninformed enough to realize all we have to do is create constitutional money, not even necessarily gold and silver, by the way. Just be able to print and create money without any interest, without any bonds attached to it. Plain and simple. As a matter of fact, not George Washington, Abraham Lincoln won the war, Civil War, North versus South, won it because both were struggling to find enough gold and silver coins to pay their armies. And Lincoln said, I'll create this thing called the greenback. Since it's the government, it was more trusted than the Confederates. And everyone bought onto it and said, okay, we'll use these greenbacks. Backed by nothing, basically. Printed as much as they needed. Paid for everything they needed. Got the supplies they needed. Got the war materials. Paid to the soldiers. They won the war. And it worked so well that he realized this should be the way we do things. And started a process to keep the greenback in place. And by chance, he got his head blown away. And that went out the window, and we got put right back on a central bank where the private central bank prints the money at interest through the bonds. And every single president to date, every one of them who you've ever heard was assassinated, every one of them was either in the process of getting rid of the central bank or doing what I just told you that Lincoln was doing with the money, which ultimately would lead to the removal of the central bank. Is that a coincidence every single time? And we've had several presidents die from being assassinated, including the latest John F. Kennedy, who was in the process of implementing these silver certificates to slowly wean us off the system that we were on, which was very interesting. And it's actually still, it was done by executive order, and it is still on the books to this day. They never repealed it off of there. No other president came and removed it. So, I'm done yapping for now. That's the Lindsey Williams update. There's a little history for you. If you've never seen the video called The Money Masters or just Money Masters, you should go watch it. But if you can find the one called The Secret of Oz, it's the same guy who's updated it basically with a few other things that he had to fix in the last one, which was The Money Masters. Nothing major. Same principle, same idea, and he talks about this bondless, taxless creation of money. It will solve everything. It's better than the gold and silver standard, etc. And here I am yelling about gold and silver. I'm only doing that because I know the cycle says we're going to be going back to that, even if it's for a short-term period. Because these people are not going to give up. These elitists are not going to give up and just roll over and say, here's thousands and hundreds of years or whatever of our ancestors, the rich and most powerful people on the face of the earth, who we continue their dynasties. We're just going to stop now all of a sudden when we have the New World Order in grasp. It's within our reach. We control all the governments. We control the militaries. They do what we want. We fight whichever wars we want. We put in whatever politicians we want. We've got our guys in the regulatory agencies, the CFTC, the Security Exchange Commission, the judges, the Supreme Court. These are all hand-picked people, elitists, by the way, ex-bankers for the most part. And they're just going to throw all that down now and say, I think we're just going to quit. Well, why now? Just tradition, as old Ben Bernanke says. Just tradition. It's just tradition for us to lie down. Now, if you're a bozo and you believe David Wilcock, Benjamin Fulford, and Drake, and there's going to be mass arrests of bankers and the criminal elite, and all the stuff is just going to go away peacefully by us or these insider military people arresting them, you are a freaking idiot, and you are smoking serious hopium. And I don't have time for that crap. By the way, Ben Fulford's date of the mass arrests has come and gone. 2 weeks plus have gone by from the last date I heard, which was the end of last month, April. And it was supposed to be in May or something that he originally talked about. Nonetheless, hasn't happened, will not happen until there's some kind of massive revolution or massive change in this country, which is also in that cycle that I tell you about. But that's way later down the road. Just like Nazis and Hitler and them, we finally went after them way after the war, right? Except we said, well, your scientists are so superior to the world, we'll let you off the hook if you come over to America. And we had Nazi fascist killers brought over here because they were so smart. And they brought us all of our atomic weapons and nuclear nightmares that we're dealing with now. Fantastic. So, anyways, there will possibly be mass arrests way later down the road, long after we experience the brutal whatever the hell happens, dictatorship / war / civil war / revolution / whatever the hell this turns into. It'll be after that. There's not a chance in hell that any time before that you're going to see these guys getting arrested and paraded around. The only person that's going to get arrested and paraded around is people like old Bernie Madoff. You ever hear of him before he got arrested? Never heard of him in your life. He wasn't a JP Morgan guy. He wasn't a Goldman Sachs guy. He was not one of the club members, if you know what I mean. He was just a guy who caught onto their Ponzi scheme and tried it himself. So he is the fall guy to say, no, we do arrest people when they do wrong. Oh, really? Why is John Corzine, former CEO of Goldman Sachs and now the former CEO of MF Global that stole all that money from the customers, it's in his emails, red-handed, he authorized it, he lied to Congress through their investigative committee, he lied, he should be charged immediately for that alone, hasn't been touched. Matter of fact, I haven't even heard crap on the news lately. I need to call Ben Fulford and Wilcock and Drake and get them on a 3-way conference call. Guys, you don't even have to wait for someone to arrest him. I mean, his emails incriminated him. Congress already called him on it. Why isn't he being arrested? And they're going to feed you a line. So anyways, that's all I got for you right now. And just want to give you that update. Have a nice day or night.